Ladies and gentlemen, the markets are moving higher today, but it's a pretty crazy one for headlines, and there's a lot of news that we need to share with you. Overall, a positive development as expected following the election, but volatility is likely here to stay with what Donald Trump has to say. Apparently, as soon as February 1st, there could be a 25% tariff enacted on Mexico and Canada. We've already started to hear some retaliation, some kind of shrugging off of this from the Mexican president. Now, that's going to create some volatility if there's a 25% blanket tariff on Canada and Mexico. But it does set a good precedent for coming in below that. If 25% is the base case and there's some kind of negotiation set forth and it's only 10%, then that will be a positive catalyst for markets eventually. With that said, markets are still moving higher. Now that news came out late last night. NASDAQ futures were up almost 1%, and within minutes, we were negative almost 1% on NASDAQ futures. Now today, the S&P is up 0.7%. The RSP is up about 1%. So you are seeing a broader market rally today with some distinct winners, like software and AI names. Trump is set to announce today a $100 billion private sector investment led by OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle for AI infrastructure. Stargate Venture to invest up to $500 billion over 4 years, starting with a Texas data center. This sent all of your data center, AI, semiconductor names soaring higher today. We are expecting to get this announcement towards the end of the trading day today, and we're all on lookout for a crypto announcement and on any further details in regards to tariffs. But so far, things seem to be going pretty good. After all, the markets are still in fear on the CNN Fear and Greed Index, and even as recently as a week ago, you were in extreme fear. So market sentiment was pretty negative heading into Inauguration Day, and positioning was really on the low side. As I've explained here on this channel many times, not too often do you only have 25% of investors that think stocks are going to be higher 6 months from now. Usually this number's towards 45, 50-ish%. And well, you're half of that today. President Trump's SEC is launching a crypto task force to develop clear regulations for the industry. It's also being reported today that targeted raids are happening throughout the US in major cities like Chicago, LA, Miami, and other areas. This is really the illegal immigrants in this country that are criminals that the Department of Homeland Security has been tracking for months now. And in unprecedented news, India is set to take back 18,000 expected illegal citizens from the US. Apple stock today, they're really having their own drama in recent weeks, has plunged to its lowest price since September following a rare underperform rating. Jefferies downgraded the stock to an underperform from hold on Monday. Jefferies noted that flagging iPhone sales and weak demand for its artificial intelligence features and newer models would lead the tech giant to undershoot quarterly revenue forecast. JP Morgan analyst on Tuesday stuck with an overweight call on Apple, but downgraded their price target from $265 to $260, citing wariness about the company's outlook. And Apple is currently down about 4% today. This is having a drag on the broader indexes. And what will be big news today, Netflix is set to report earnings after the bell today. Netflix is seen as, I don't know if you want to call a Mag 7, Fang, I doesn't matter the terminology, but Netflix is seen as one of those big tech names, even though they really have a low market cap relative to your other Mag 7 guys. They still do have an impact on the broader gang. If Netflix has good earnings, that's going to send the markets higher. If Netflix has bad earnings, that's going to be a bit of a problem. So we have a major catalyst today in after hours. We also have earnings from United Interactive Brokers, Seagate, Capital One, Zions, and others. Tomorrow morning, we have P&G, Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, Halliburton, Halliburton, GE Vernova, Ally, Comerica, and Commerce Bank. And then tomorrow and after hours, we have Kinder Morgan, Alcoa, Discover, Steel Dynamics, Cadence, and others. And then to end out the week, we have CSX, Intuitive Surgical, Texas Instruments, GE Aerospace, American Airlines, Huntington, Union Pacific, and Alaska Airlines on Thursday. And Friday, you have Verizon, American Express, and Next Era Energy. Also in the news, Barron Trump is launching his own luxury real estate company, as per the New York Post. Also, it looks to be rumored, some say it's confirmed, but I have not been able to confirm it, but Trump has apparently launched a strategic XRP wallet with the US Treasury. The wallet has interacted with Bank of America and World Liberty Fi, the venture that is backed by Eric Trump. And attorney generals from 18 states have sued President Trump to block an executive order that refuses to recognize the US-born children of unauthorized immigrants as citizens. So there's all kinds of drama going on today. It also looks like Fox News' Hannity will interview Trump on Wednesday. And again, for markets, it's all about tariffs right now. We want to know, what's the deal with tariffs? What's being discussed? What are potential options? So Wall Street can kind of figure out what tariffs are going to look like. And Johnson says the Fed will pause to evaluate the impacts of Trump's policies. Also being reported today, per the FP, that tariffs on Canada by Trump would plunge Canada into recession by mid-year. We are also expecting a Japanese rate hike later this week. The odds of that now sit at 98%. Liz Young-Thomas points out the prior rate hike contributed to early July volatility, but a similar reaction is less likely now. The yen positioning is not nearly as bearish as it was then. That just means there's a lower chance of rapid currency appreciation, which caused the flash crash in markets on August 8th. And if you guys don't remember what happened on August 8th, it's pretty simple. Markets were already in a weak place. Then the Bank of Japan raised rates at the wrong time, and the S&P closed down 3%. The NASDAQ that day was down 6% in pre-market trading. It did recover a lot once you opened the trading day, but there was some incredible volatility. This was actually the only 10% correction you've seen in markets in almost 2 years. Most of the corrections we've seen in the past 2 years are really anywhere from 5 to 7%. So we'll see what happens when the Bank of Japan raises rates later this week. Mexican President Sheinbaum says one step at a time when asked if Mexico will retaliate with tariffs against the US. It looks like Mexico for sure is trying to negotiate with the US instead of taking a hardline approach, which we'll see what Canada's approach is, but they've talked a little bit more about retaliation tariffs. Mexico may not be the bigger issue. It may be Canada, at least from the market's perspective. And also, if you missed it, Elon Musk did this salute. No, he is not a Nazi, but that is affecting Tesla stock negatively today. And that's what everyone seems to be talking about, with literally thousands of news articles that are talking about this. But yet, pretty much anyone else in politics that you can think of and name has done something similar to this. But that just shows how polarizing Elon Musk is as an individual, and it's really just about getting the clicks. No, he's not a Nazi. That's not what he meant to do. He was saying, my heart is with you. That's essentially the gist of this gesture. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is the better performing index today, up 1%. The Russell actually has that beat, up 1.66%. Remember, a lot of the deregulation that took place today, or yesterday technically, and we're expecting to get even more deregulation. That is really good for small caps. At the same time, it seems like a lot of Wall Street really didn't think about this. Trump signed an executive order to mandate all branches of government to figure out, whatever that means, the best way, the fastest way to reduce the cost of living. So essentially just started a war on inflation. That's positive for small caps, last I checked. Now, the NASDAQ is the weaker performing index today, up 0.53%. The S&P 500 is up 0.71%, but all indexes, largely speaking, doing pretty damn well, as I expected after the inauguration. And a lot of the NASDAQ's decline today can be attributed to Apple's decline, which that thing just keeps on falling. Now, the VIX today is down almost 4% to 15.21, but keep in mind, the VIX for a long time traded around 12. So you're still pretty high relative to pretty much any time from November 2023 through July of 2024, when the VIX really never got above 15, or really it was pretty rare to get above 14 and stay there. We were in the 12s for a long time. So you're still, even today, quite elevated on the VIX. Now, bond yields today also coming under pressure. Again, a war against inflation is probably good for treasury yields, last thing I knew at least. 10-year treasury yields today down about 3.5 basis points to 4.57%. Oil today is down 2.3% after Trump signed a slew of executive orders promoting oil production. And, that's good for inflation too, last time I checked. Gold is up 1/3%. Silver is up 1% today. The dollar today also is down about 1.16%, which is one of the largest down days for the dollar we have seen. I think it's the second largest down day for the dollar we've seen in the last 12 months. And typically when the dollar goes up, that's bad for stocks. Typically when the dollar goes down, that's good for stocks, especially small cap names. Now, the dollar really affects large cap names the most, companies that do business in, foreign markets, but large cap companies have an easier way of kind of distorting or hiding the difference between FX currency conversion, if that makes sense. Small caps are a lot more vulnerable to that because, let's say a small cap has 5 customers, 3 of them do business with them in Japanese yens, for an example, and 2 of them do business in US dollars. That could be a large percentage of that company's revenue coming from overseas. Okay, if Meta does business in yen, as they do in other foreign currencies as well, the bulk of their business is done in US dollars. So it's not as big of an effect on large cap companies, even though the total dollar amount is going to be way bigger with multinational large corporations. And the dollar declining is another likely reason why markets are doing well today. You can also see Bitcoin is doing really good today, recovering from some of the lower points we've seen in the past 24 hours, around $100,000. Good news is for crypto bros out there, we found a lot of support around 100,000, and now we're back up to about 107,000, nearly at a new all-time high. So if things continue at this pace, we should be at a new all-time high in no time. Now, the S&P from a technical perspective looks really good. On Friday, you broke above this trend line, solidifying we are now likely in an upward sloping market where we've likely got some of that upside momentum back again. Now, today, it looks like the sellers took over for a brief period, tried to push markets lower, and then the buyers stepped back in. That's where you can see this lower wick candle here, and now looks like going to close near the high of the day today. That is a very positive setup that we have, and I do expect we could very soon, very shortly, be at new all-time highs. So with all of that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this information down below in the comments section. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.